Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. I'm your happy healer, Keith Landy, for president. Today's date is July 13th, 2019. It is actually the show of the 12th. We are here in a very late fashion because sometimes I just have to do things the exact right way, and there is so much to our run for president of the United States, and I am so proud of that as well, just because of what that means. So welcome to the program, and also what we will do this evening is possibly open up the phone lines a little bit later. But what I'd like to do now is load in our starter video. This is to get the show started, and it's the opening. And I think you'll enjoy it as always. It runs for about 7 minutes, and I'll be right here the whole time. Time now is 12:50 a.m. and let's run it. Hello, my name is Keith Landy, your happy healer for President of the United States. I am so excited about having you come on board. Every day we are moving our message forward, which means we are getting more people on board with the truth. That is so incredibly important. I am so happy about that. But even further than that, we're helping people figure out their fate. We're helping people keep on a steady and true path heading towards their own. Evil does that, right? It humbles us. It shows us the truth even if we don't want to see it. Sometimes that is an ugly version of the facts that evil likes to just emphasize and magnify in our life in whatever ways it can. It doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up, and in many ways we've accounted for it, and quite frankly we allow for it. We anticipate it and we look for it. In fact, when it doesn't come, we wonder where has it gone, and we anticipate its arrival. That is how we are dealing with it, and we shouldn't be accepting this because it's something that we can address. And in this campaign, I intend to address that because I want a better life for you and for me and for all Americans. I know that it's incredibly important for us to have a better life. Otherwise, we won't reach or meet the challenges of our time. If we don't have the courage to do what is right now, when it is right to do it, then we won't meet the challenges of our time. We don't want that to happen. Let us be smart. Let us realize there is a much better way to go, and that we can encourage others along the way instead of discourage them. Okay, so today obviously we're talking about greed again, how it gets into our lives and how people justify it, and the damage it's doing when we justify that greed in our lives. What we're doing when we say that's okay. So true. And that's the reason why I'm running, so that we can actually address those things directly. And it's like peeling a scab for many of you. You know I'm right, but you don't want to deal with it, and you don't want to deal with the truth in this regard. However, this is the only truth that's going to get us forward. And you know it's right because it's a tough thing to do. But if we don't do it, then we are the ones who pay that price. I say have the courage to do what is right. And listen, allow yourself to open your ears and listen to an honest broker of truth who takes the time to go over the truth with you. Appreciate that. Value that. Go to the site and see what you're getting out of just that. And support that, because not many people do. And so what happens are voices that we actually rely on, that we count on to have in our lives, that give us some purpose and some sense of what is happening and gives a clue. That clue is helpful to each individual who picks it up. When I lay down something that gives you a tool in order to deal with some of life's most pressing moments, in that these tools are coping mechanisms, and that when used properly change lives. Am I supposed to not give that out because you're not supporting? What about the people who actually count on that? And what about you who counts on it? But maybe you don't even realize it, or maybe you do, but you're not helping, you're not giving towards the cause because you don't want to support my presidential campaign. You're so focused on that instead of the information that's coming out. Well, let me tell you, the least thing you need to be worried about is my presidential campaign. But the most thing you need to be worried about is that my inability to get this message out because nobody is supporting it. So, do your part. Do your part. We all do a great thing. I promise I will never let you down. And if your biggest concern is that I might get popular and do something great, I don't think it's really that big of a concern for you. But to be honest, I think you are going to get the best out of this information. It's going to lift you up in ways you never even could imagine. And if you already look at the past information, you go back, look at the shows that we have already done, then you know in real terms exactly the value that it provides. And I'm sure that you want that in your life. It's just a benefit, and I'm so privileged and honored actually to be in your life and providing that service, that vote of confidence that you take in me every time you come to the channel and watch what I'm doing and what I'm saying and the things that we all know are so important. You're helping drive the message forward. That's important. So thank you for your... Okay, and on tonight, we're gonna watch human beings do some of the most egregious things you have ever seen. Okay, and on tonight, we are going to watch some human beings do the most egregious things you have ever seen. And we will have a segment on this show where we approach that with courage. We're not gonna spend on every show talking about these kinds of things. Or when we do it on a show, we're not gonna spend the entire show on it either. It's very, well, but it's also the truth. It's the truth of the life that we live in this country and in humanity. And America is not just the only humanity in this world with the greed problem, with the hate problem. However, we used to be an exception to the world in terms of a lot of our hate. Well, at least to the extent that we can get along and unite along the lines of an idea of freedom. However, we have gotten away from that too now. And if we don't get back to it, I fear we may never get back to it. Especially given the threats of our time, China, and other threats that would just love to see America fall off the world stage. Not to mention the people in America that would love to see our country, our beautiful country, the United States of America, fall away to a larger power of a new world order. America would be stomped on. You, any advantage you have to be an American, that's gone. So that's why we feel that by opening our borders in that way, we're just doing nothing but making this dream that we're talking about, the new world, and acknowledging that it's coming, we're just making it harder to get there. So that's why we're so focused on this. And remember, folks, we have to be so focused on this because if we're not, nobody else is talking about it. There are no other presidential candidates speaking about these issues that we make a primary concern because they are. Greed is a primary concern because it is. If we do not address it, then we will have to suffer the consequences. And I contend, and I will prove, and I will make that case that this country cannot continue to deal with the stresses, the disunity, and everything that is coming out of greed. And it's really where the epicenter is to greed. It's the hate that we experience. It's what makes it okay. Because ultimately speaking, when we justify our greed, we are justifying so much more. And the time has come to stop doing that because we all matter and we have to show it in ways that we can convey to one another and that we have to make it real. And people, they don't understand or they don't understand the gravity of the situation. We have to make it so. And we just have to make our case. And we will. And we will.
That is great.
Hello, my name is Keith Landy, your happy healer for President of the United States. I am so excited about having you come on board. Every day we are moving our message forward, which means we are getting more people on board with the truth.
All right, welcome back. And so it is fitting that on this show this evening, and I appreciate you being here, that we're going to discuss once again greed in our time, how it is holding us back, how the hate that stems from just the divisions that we're experiencing in the way we see people, the way they act in public, the way they act to each other, and to make sense of that. And why is that happening? To ask those questions. Why is that happening? And then we get to greed and we answer those questions. So that is going to be a big reoccurrence on this program because really it's one of the underlying factors to many issues we're experiencing today. Very true. And what I'm going to tell you about that is we're going to use the media to dig in deep on this one, because there are some very, I think, strong stories that you will appreciate. They're going to require that you muster up some strength. That's okay. That when the human aspect comes out of us, we reach new levels. That's why the Happy Healer is running in the first place, because he can offer that uniquely unlike anybody else, just to get so real in the moment and to feel that realness. It actually takes us to new places. So that's, and we'll get our patriotic music going, because that's definitely helps out, I think. So what we'll do is, when we have these situations that we can learn from, we'll learn from them. But in the moment, we'll hold each other accountable to being better people in ways that we can. We have to always remember that where we live now is in a world that puts greed first, that is flawed in so many ways, really. That's what makes it unfair, that we're looking for the things we want to come out of society, but we're expecting it out of this society, out of this world, the way things are. It's unfair because it's setting us up for failure. We'll never be able to achieve those goals, not the way things are, not putting greed first, not justifying that, not saying it's okay, that not standing up for the people that are dying on the streets. We have to stand up for them. We have to be better. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, and the way I'm going to do this actually is play it, but I'll pause it and have commenting along the way, because this touches on some pretty heavy stuff. There's been some, well, as you know, there's a lot of shootings all the time, and there's a lot of other kinds of ugliness. And if you haven't watched, I like this show on YouTube. It's called Active Self-Protection. He's a Christian. He loves God, and so do I. And, well, I get his points, and I think that he makes a lot of sense when it comes to sharing in ways to be safer in today's world. So I see that as definitely something worth sharing with you, because all of us have to be safe in this world, especially if we're putting ourselves out there and we're a voice of reason in an otherwise crazy world. We are the freedom fighters of today, and we use love. We have to protect that. We have to protect ourselves, because there are forces out there that would like to see us gone. So we just have to be very careful, and we have to acknowledge those truths. So I am going to always give you the power through information to deal with things, coping mechanisms, and also real hard knowledge that just makes it easier for you to deal with things. If something happens, you know how to react in these situations. Isn't that so important? And then we can build upon that. With those understandings, your life gets better. Your life actually begins to take on more purpose and value, because you realize how to handle situations, you can get out of them, and you feel more confident, therefore, getting into situations where you belong. Because oftentimes a lot of us are just too fearful to do anything. So we need coping mechanisms to deal with things, and we need understanding in order to really keep ourselves in the safest circumstance through this very dangerous world. All truths. Okay, so let us go ahead and now put on the next portion of this show, and I think you'll enjoy it. God bless you all. Let us take it into the next segment.
Okay, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. We're getting ready to talk about real problems What you see here is a gentleman who actually has no problem shooting and therefore taking the life of another individual. And this is the kind of problems that we're having in our country so much. We have to be aware of that. And right now we aren't. We are not aware of all of the damage that's coming out of the things that we're doing. We have to keep that in mind, folks. It could be any of us. It was him because he has his experiences and felt like he wanted to rob and take what wasn't his. He is handling things the wrong way, but there is a better way.
So we're going to cover some stories that are different, that we haven't touched on.
There he is, the devil. We know he's the devil because he's willing to shoot at God's people. You, me, all of us. That anybody's so willing to just step up and take a life away, well then they're doing the devil. Also, take away our own culpability in the society that we raise all around us. That culpability is so clear, and we have to own our part in that, and that is the greed that is literally tearing us up by the seams and making life impossible. Making it impossible to even go forward. Impossible. We have to do things a different way, folks. And that's why I'm running for president of the United States. Let's have some courage and go over some things that are not exactly sightly, but are happening. Our truth deserve our attention and reaffirms the reason why your happy healer for president is indeed the right choice for our times. Take a look.
Several videos for you that show armed robberies where compliance does okay. But then we're going to see one from Mobile, Alabama in the United States where compliance was not helpful. Out of today's video, I of course want to think about the value of compliance. But I also want to talk about using opportunities for counter ambush, and I want to talk about the importance of emotional fitness to survival. So the first couple we're going to look at do involve compliance. And so what we see in this first one here, guy comes up, sticks a gun in the face of these two employees at a payday loan place, and he's going to take them back into the store, tells them what he wants, they're going to re-unlock the door. Now that takes great emotional fitness from the very giddy-up, that you have to stay calm, you have to be willing to keep thinking about what can I do here to protect myself, and the compliance may be the right answer. In this instance, I think it was. You notice here that these employees are going to go into the back and don't really have a whole lot of opportunities, particularly if they're not armed themselves. I'm not positive if they are or if they aren't. But you're going to see him again, second angle here. He has a gun right to her back and has contact with her. So perhaps if she had a very advanced empty-handed skill set, she could have used that in order to disarm him. But he takes him in the back and grabs all their stuff. And we're going to see him walk out here, and nobody ends up hurt in this one. He takes the money, he leaves them in the back room, and so they were emotionally.
And you know, when nobody gets hurt in a situation, that's always a good outcome, isn't it? That's why you need these. You know, and I like this guy, John, from Active Self-Protection. He always says you have to protect your asp. It's kind of funny, right? But seriously, you could find yourself in a predicament even tomorrow that this information is so helpful. And you can't count on other people to step in. Mostly they don't. Mostly they do not. All you can count on is that you will react in the right way so that you come out of it alive to fight another day. And remember, that's the most important thing. You swallow that pride. You use the courage to do what is right in the moment, but not foolish pride that just serves to get you hurt and killed, and it's so foolish. People call me sometimes crazy for stepping out and doing things, but I'm doing only things that are worthwhile, the kinds of things we should all be doing. But the things you'll never see me do is step out in such foolish ways, taking stupid risks that I know does not serve a purpose. All it does is just make me that much closer to a danger that I don't want to be around. And so I tell you, stay away from dangers, and listen to these principles I teach, because they're going to keep you safe. And in a dangerous world where everyone is out to get you, the law is out to get you, your neighbors are out to get you, even in some cases your family is out to get you. Thank God I have a great family. But, we're just all in this together. And that greed is so real. And that's why we can't even justify saying, oh, well, let's have an end to all this. Let's that man who's robbing, he ought not rob. He shouldn't rob. And damn well he should not rob. But we shouldn't also leave him in the streets to die. It's unfathomable. And we shouldn't leave the families in the streets to die. And we shouldn't be bringing more people in so that they could also be on the streets to die. And it doesn't matter. Usually you never actually die on the street. You're just on the street up until the point to where you go to the hospital and then you die. I mean, folks, people are dying on the streets. Of course people are pissed off. I'm pissed off. That's why I'm running. Just one of you.
Things worked out okay, and he's going to run off, and I don't know if they caught him or not. Next one we're going to look at comes out of Philadelphia. This particular one here, you're going to see this guy walk in, and he is going to pull a big karambit-style knife and threaten the clerk and say, hey, open up the register. You can see in his right hand there that he has a big old knife, and the clerk's going to do just that, open the register. The video that Philly PD released is pretty choppy on this one. And so he's going to, actually put his knife down. Now, one of the things that you notice here is he's going to have to go pick his knife up. Well, guess what? If you're looking for an opportunity for a counter ambush when the bad guy puts his tool down, is a great opportunity if you're paying attention. And I see that happen on a somewhat regular basis. But again, in this case, the clerk just complied, let him into the register, and he wasn't, in there to hurt somebody. He was using that as an intimidation tool, walks off, and that's where this one ends as well. So that's another compliance one. This one here is interesting. Comes out of Acapulco in Mexico. This guy pulls a big old revolver and starts taking the employees here, and I've sped it up simply for the sake of time. And he's going to take these two employees back to the register and ask them to open the register.
Never be a hero.
Is this a safe situation? No, he's pointing a big bore revolver at her, and she's just going to get the money out of the till and put it in a very little bag for him. And not only empty out the cash, but the coins. This guy wants to do his laundry later or something. And notice there that he's looking into everything, but the employees stay calm. Now, I don't really see a whole lot of opportunities in this one to launch a counter ambush, but I can't see what he's doing in the moment. And the more skill set you have, the better off you may be able to do. She's emptied her tip jar in there and all that stuff, has not given him any lift, has not tried anything, just complied. And thankfully, in this particular instance, the compliance is going to work out okay. She gives him the money. He's actually going to look around a little bit more, walk off, and this one's over as well. Now, this last one out of Mobile, Alabama.
And what do you think about that compliance for a moment? Even in life, oftentimes you find yourself in situations where compliance is the easiest way out. But is it the right way out? Is it the right way out? And yes, it is in some cases. But what you're going to learn tonight also in some of these stories that we're putting forth, using as an example for why we need to make changes in our lives, is that not in all cases are people even decent, not even when they can be. They went in there for a purpose because they want your money. Is that not enough? Not for some people.
Look at him with a gun. Now, this guy's just kind of sitting there going, hey, man, what are you going to do? What's up? Well, watch, he shoots him right in the head. And you can see that the guy is bleeding pretty good. I don't know what caliber he shot him with, but you can see him bleeding, and he runs off. Incredible emotional fitness, I think, to stay in the fight and get the heck out of there. So we know this robber absolutely means business. And that guy wasn't resisting him. He was just like, what do you need, man? And he was shocked, and the guy had no problem shooting him whatsoever. So while compliance can be a good skill, what I see here in this one, it's not a foolproof skill. You can say, well, just give him the stuff and he won't hurt you. Yeah, maybe, but not in this particular instance. And I'm not real excited about leaving my safety in the hands of a robber, somebody who's a felon. Now, notice here that this employee is trying to get in to the register, but he's having a hard time getting into the register. This is why
He's
emotional
lost
fitness
it.
is important.
He's
Staying
already
cool,
lost
saying,
it.
okay, I'm going to just scan this thing out, make it a cash sale, get the drawer open so you can get your stuff. Takes a great deal of emotional fitness. And that's
He's already lost it at that point. The guy can't even stay focused because he's already discombobulated. He doesn't know what to do. Everything's already losing it. Let me tell you something about your happy healer. In these kinds of situations, I am such a cool customer. First off, I know that ultimately speaking, I have God. And that's one of the things that he talks about, John does. Be right with your maker, be right with your friends, be right with your family, because you never know when your last day is, and that you should always be humble in that you never want their last day or your last day to end on a negative, because those are things that stick with us. And, there's apparently a very, very strong veil between this world and the next. So when you make that transition, there's no real, well, not in the sense that when you're here, right? So I'm very open to life and the realities, things I've learned about life that gives me better understanding, that gives me coping mechanisms, that gives me the tools and essentials I need to keep a happy and high-spirited life, to keep me motivated. And it's never money for me. It's always passion, and it's always the love, and it's always the humanity, and it's always the interest, and showing, in fact, improving, if one must, that we're capable of doing better by being that way. Not talking so much about it, just doing it, because so many people talk, you just don't want to be a part of that. Too much senseless, pointless noise. That's why I spend so much time learning, because I know that when I speak, then my words will have value on its own stand, on their own legs. My words will mean something because of the time and effort I put in order to get the insight that I have. It came through experience, and it also came through education and studying the world and spending time in deep meditation, understanding that so much happens just between the ears that is responsible for a happy life and responsible for helping us be able to react to things that keeps us safe. It allows you to love. So many people can't love because they don't have all of these tools. Remember, I'm your happy healer, and you can't even begin to heal yourself if you can't employ love. And so everything we're doing here, all of this stuff, is to get to that. And then I know that when we get there, greed is going to be the thing we need to fix, because that's me, baby. That's me. And I am just about as real as they come. And, I see it so clearly because it's this clear for me. If we can't figure out how to live a life worth living, then why at all? Not that you would do anything bad to yourself. That's not the point. The point is that you make a life worth living. That is so important. And to recognize that when you see the suicide and the disparity in so many people falling and not succeeding in life, you know why that's happening then. Because we failed to make a life worth living. That is so important. That's why it's part of my campaign promise. That's also why, even when people told me, Keith, you should not call yourself the happy healer, you're talking about being a presidential candidate. Do you know how that sounds? I know how it sounds, and I love it, and we need it. And the fact is, I would never sell out something that's been so incredibly helpful in my life. Then to talk about it and lift you up, I would no longer even be qualified. So this is something so central to each one of us. We have to have that kind of drive and discipline. You'll never be able to match me on my interest to have the information, to be very much queued up in the capability to handle things and to have the coping mechanisms and all of that stuff. if you are using the greed aspect of life instead of the love, because that's always going to look for payment. You cannot even go have a good time unless you first look for payment. That's just the way it works. That's what those rules play by. And it's wrong. We know it's wrong. And we're going to be sharing so much on this topic. I have coming up soon, not on this program, but look into the next few days. We're turning the page in a brand new way. We're going to be making actual documentary type programming for you to understand on a deeper level these ideas that really make the difference. And we're going to get to the why subject more. We're going to dissect this more. And I really think you're going to appreciate the way we do it.
Important to stay cool in that moment, especially with this guy who we know is willing to use the gun. So if you're going to comply, recognize you got to keep your head in the game and look for opportunities.
Poor guy. Just take a look at the insanity of this individual. Look at him. He's willing to pull the trigger. He did pull the trigger. Life means nothing. And I almost understand where the insanity is coming from when you see so many people en masse dismiss the true value and purpose of the human being. You actually reinforce actions like these in the mind of the individual because you tell them they don't matter. You are to blame. That's why I say each of us must own our own shame and desire, yearn, and have the courage to be and do different. That's where we get that from. That strength. So quick to do such the most horrendous
counter ambush.
things.
Now, when this guy's looking around and trying to find other stuff, if our good guy here was armed, he could have done that himself. There's another opportunity to draw surreptitiously and get a shot on the guy and end the threat, but he doesn't, and so the guy shoots him right in the hip there in the upper leg.
Awful.
So again, compliance didn't do anything for this
guys.
guy. Look,
Don't
man,
you
I
know
can't get
life
into the
is
thing.
just
It's
so precious?
So completely blacked out, he can't. But you gotta keep emotionally fit. Now you gotta have the fitness to go, wait a minute, I'm shot, I'm bleeding, but the guy won't.
Do you hear that? Now you got to have the emotional fitness to say, wait, I'm shot, I'm bleeding, I have to tend to this wound. But you can't even. You're still in the fight. If you tend to the wound to stay alive, you won't be tending to the situation. That man's greed, his desire to take your money, you better tend to that. You better make sure he gets what he wants first or you lose your life. Isn't that the fair world? I know that because I have been robbed from. I know that because I have had people take advantage. I see how unfair the justice system is. I see how real the struggle is for good people to be good people. Nobody even realizes that they assume everybody's bad and that when there's a good person that they're phonies. You leave no room in there, people, when you do that. Stop it! You're driving people to their insanity, and you yourself are insane. You have to start thinking differently, or we're going to have the same result.
And my wounds, he wants to get into the register. So all that to say, if I hear this all the time, and I get it from law enforcement agencies and those kind of things, and people who say, nope, just comply because that's your best strategy. Maybe, but if you know what you're looking for, a counter ambush may have been a better strategy here, because it certainly isn't really any worse than getting shot like this guy got, or shot like the first guy shot. So instead, looking for opportunities for counter ambush, as if
what
you
I like
have the
better is
attitude,
just
you have
loving
your
people.
tools on you, you have the skill set to be able to do that, and it's a pressure-tested skill set, may be a better answer. Notice I've been talking over this here, and it's been going for quite some time, and the threat is still continuing. The other thing that compliance does, puts you at the mercy of the attacker for as long as they want it to be there, as long as the attacker's willing to be there. Now, clearly, there's a significant opportunity here to counter ambush. If our victim was armed, he could clearly have gotten his gun out and absolutely gone to work on this guy when he came back around the corner.
That's why I will never stand there and tell you I'm going to take your weapon away from you, knowing that the government won't be there in the hour it is most needed for you to have it, knowing that they put you in a state of civil war, knowing that I have already myself have been a victim so many times and what that feels like. Some people can never come back from that, but that I do. I do every time. In fact, I don't want to live like a victim. My victimhood status doesn't mean anything to me, except for the fact that when and if it should happen again, it doesn't shock me. Not in this world. It happens all the time. Some of us are victims so often that we just become nullified and numbified by it. We're just like, okay, that's the normal world. That is the normal world. Now, can we try to work on making a new normal world? A new normal. Think about it.
He couldn't use that option, and he gets shot again on the way out. And friends, that's why I say compliance can be a strategy, but it's a dangerous one. So let's learn what we have to learn here. Let's make sure that we understand what the dangers are. Let's do the right things to cover our ass.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's a smart dude. If you want to go to John's channel, just look up active self-protection. That'll get you there. And what we and there are some other examples on there. We're not done with this yet. We're keeping it going. But if you want to go there, go to YouTube and you type in active self-protection, you could see all the different examples that he gives. And he does his walkthroughs, so he lets you know what he thinks is the right way, sort of what he does for a living, and I appreciate that. And also a lot of this stuff I've already known myself. Like I said, I would never take the ability for somebody to protect themselves away. It's not the freedoms that gets us in trouble. It's not the tools. In fact, that's what makes life worth living. If you take that stuff away, then we don't have a life worth living. And we need to make life more worth living. And then we have less of these kinds of problems. Doesn't that make sense? Think about it. Doesn't that make sense? And we have to take care of people. We have to also, it makes sense we can do that. It makes sense that if we make that investment, that it will pay off in America. That makes sense. And that when they bailed out the banks, they had no problem printing the money, But they never want to bail out the people. But we know that they can, and well, you elect me, and I assure you, we'll walk in there with the unity to get it done. Because my running for president started with number uno first. I had to just make sure I am right, and that at the right moment, if I am the guy to run, then I shall run. And I knew that with all the things adding up, the fact that I'm such a unique character for the right message at the right time on so many different levels and for so many different issues. Enough so that would actually satisfy every progressive, people who are fighting for freedoms, people who are interested in going into a future where we are safe and where logic is working. And also on the other side, people who love God, and it really builds a unity for people in general who believe in humanity, and that you don't have to get there the same way. If somebody agrees that humanity matters because they love God so much and that faith brings them to that belief, is not far off than as if somebody who's just lived and experienced life's hard knocks for long enough, realizing that, well, in the best case scenario, we should do things better. It's a logical approach either way, in my view. And I'm very logical. And so these candidates who are running, they don't have the qualifications. I don't believe they do. And so that's why I'm running, that they're not talking about the things that are important to my life and to your life and to the situation of all of our lives, the world around us, the reality as it stands, as it really is. They're not speaking to that. That's why your happy healer for president is running. So get behind that. I'll be reporting my numbers, and I'll be doing it like once a week on this site. And you guys should be checking those. And if they're low, that's a reflection of you, because I'm doing my job. And you've got to show by helping to get the message out as well, because it's not all up to you either. We have to get people on board to a message that is healthy for living. or we won't have healthy lives.
Staying there with your hands down at your side. You see this guy's getting aggressive. I strongly recommend you don't let aggressive people into your space that
Never
close.
let aggressive
That's
people
the way you're
right
going to
up
get
to you.
headbutted like this guy's
Never.
about to. Instead, when there's an aggressive person around, make sure you
This
use
is
that
the kind of
defensive
hate
fence
we
and
need
get a
to
hand
address.
up. Otherwise, you're going to get punched in the face like this or headbutted
This
like
is
this
not
or
for
something
nothing.
like that.
People are
So
worked
that's
up.
where those attacks happen from. You got to control your ego for
I even
that.
understand
Back
the
that guy off and
antagonizer,
get
the
your
person
defensive
who's
fence up. There's a
antagonizing.
link in
I
the
get them too.
description to what a defensive
I
fence
really
is
do.
on the Active Self-Protection Extra channel. So we see the guy here after that.
People
he
are so
finally
sick of
does
not
that as well.
mattering.
You see him finally get something of a defensive fence
And
up
seeing
here,
everybody they love die.
just with his right hand, but that's certainly better than nothing. And as he's trying to keep this guy off him so he doesn't headbutt him again. And that's what we mean when we talk about
People
using
don't need a
defensive
gun to
fence.
hurt you.
However, he only uses it with one hand here. Because he only uses it with one hand, the guys are going to reach up and slap him. You got to
There you
have
go.
both
There's some love
sides
for
covered.
you.
That's what the
And you
defensive
call
fence
me
is for,
weird.
is providing protection for your head and neck against a surprise attack like this. He didn't, and therefore he caught a slap across the face. Now, this guy clearly is a practitioner. He's got great emotional fitness because he stays nice and cool and doesn't want to fight this guy. But now he's decided, obviously, we know where it's going. He's decided at this point that he's going to go, that he's going to actually defend himself against this guy. And you got to make those decisions in a split second and have the skills to back it up. And so what he does here is he gets head control. You can see him. He takes his
Good
left
job,
leg,
kid.
Turns his hips, and he's going to use some kind of
Have a spot for you in the
capture, an
military.
outside capture on the arm and the leg there. Now, I don't know, I've ran this by a bunch of judo guys, and, some called it one thing, some called it another. I'm just going to call it a kemosabe. It could be just a wrestling throw and go from there. But at any rate, head and neck control, captured the leg there, captured the outside arm, and then took him down. Don't know if he meant to take him down there or if the guy holding onto him made him fall down.
Finally,
but it
the
was effective
bystander
because
comes
he maintained
in.
the head and arm control.
They never
maintained
step
that
up when
and
it
got a
counts.
bystander or a friend in the fight. So communicating
Not in
well
this
with your
world.
friends to keep him from gouging your eyes out or whatever, also important. So the guy kept his cool here, had some skills, needs to learn that defensive fence so that the guy doesn't get those opportunities to begin with, and you can cover your ass.
Although he did come in, and I appreciate that because a lot of people wouldn't even do that. So, but he wasn't about to get in, not a moment before he knew that he would be a bit safe as well. Which, when it's all life and death, you can't blame anybody, can you? You just have to say, wow, those moments really suck. How can we best avoid those in life? That's what you really need to say. And it starts with being honest about why they're happening. Why are moments like these happening? Why? Why are there more shootings today than there were in the past? It's not because of guns, kids. It's not because of guns. You can't blame the problems we're having when it's so obviously a human condition on anything around us. And definitely not our freedoms. Please stop that. So we're getting ready to roll into the next one here. There you go. That's how women get treated, huh? Look at this. Boom! Now, she probably had it coming to some degree too, to be honest. But, when is the insanity going to stop? People aren't treating each other right. Guys, I'm not going to stop showing you this stuff. You have to see it. You have to know the insanity that you're promoting when you promote the greed. You have no moral high ground to stand on. The Democrats who say, yeah, let's kill babies in the womb, have no moral high ground to tell Republicans you want health care for all.
Say, oh, you're 5 feet on dating sites? You should be dead.
This poor guy, I
That's
get
okay.
him too.
Who said that to you here? Nobody.
Women in general have said it on dating sites. You think I'm making that shit up? Everywhere I go, I
Okay. He's cussing a bit, so I'm not going to. But here's the deal, okay? I happen to be 6'1". God has gifted me in a lot of ways. I'm a good-looking guy, got these big, bright blue eyes, and I just go through the world like that. And the world's not even easy for me. So I can't imagine what he goes through as being 5 foot tall, is what he said. And that's really tough. People, they just make fun of you and they don't value your humanity. And then one day, this is the guy who walks in and shoots up a place, and for as much as everyone's mad at him, they're looking at him finally for the first time. Think about that. We got to start looking at people before they go wacky, okay? We have to start caring beforehand. And we have to address these things where we just don't care. We have to show that we do. And we have to admit that we were wrong. That we have to take on each other's pains just a little bit better than we're doing, instead of causing them. And then we might feel a bit more empathy. Remember, these are things you can put into your life immediately. You can start doing things more sensibly immediately. You could start treating people with love everywhere you go and see how that feels to you immediately. And then you can come back and thank me, because those things will change your life and they'll have an impact immediately, and they'll continue to have an impact.
Shut your mouth. You're not God or my father or my boss. Dude, you want to step outside? You want to step outside? Huh? I'm not scared.
I want to end it on a lighter one, but
You
still.
shut up, too. Look, it's going to attack me.
Oh boy, that's how we do, huh? You know, and something like that, you never know how it's going to end. You know, it could have gone a lot worse. And so you never, ever, ever go with physical force and try to hurt somebody. You can't take that back. And so you just have to realize how important each one of us are and treat one another like that. Like we matter. So what I'd like to do is, right now, if anybody would like to call in, I'm only going to be on for a bit longer here. We pretty much covered most of the topics, well, for today. Tomorrow we're staying on this topic, but we're going to get into it even deeper. We're going to dissect some reasons for things, and I suspect we'll be on that for the next few days, few nights at least, of course, depending on whatever else happens in the world, because your President Happy Healer is definitely has to react to certain things if we're going to do this right. And, you know, that's it. There's no normal way to run for president. Well, there used to be, but I don't think so anymore. Not with all of the new technologies and the way people are changing and discovering themselves. I really think that we just need to be pragmatic in the fact that we're not the same people we were before, and that's a good thing. And then that we can actually humbly appreciate who we were before better, instead of trying to pretend we're that now. Think about it. And we can grow in ways that are so much better, in ways that you really want to grow, in ways that you almost protect yourself so hard that you would makes it so hard for you to allow yourself to grow in those ways I'm talking about. So if you'd like to call in, now is the time to do that. And the phone number is 407-984-5075. Feel free to talk to me about pretty much anything on your mind. Specifically, I'd like to talk about greed this evening, and about how our problems, our hate, things like that are just really so heavy on our shoulders. How many of us wear our resentments on our shoulders and we just take it out on everybody else around us, and how that affects our own lives. And that when you let that go, like I said a moment ago, live your life with love and just try that out, see how it goes. And I have had people do that and end up there today, so strong with me. They will never leave my side. They just know how true the truths I talk about are, and the fact that the love changed their life, that everything else was destroying their life and taking from it. And that's how people wonder what I do. I have sometimes hate come my way. I'm not fearful in the moment. I can handle any and all hate, even if the hate's 1,000,000 times more than the love I get. Because ultimately speaking, the hate is just the reality of the situation. I understand that. And I'm focused on the truth because I want to win in the truth. But that when it comes to love, and these are coping mechanisms. When it comes to love, then I'm focused on that love more. That love is supposed to mean so much. The love is what gives us the value. Why would you focus on hate that's not giving you value or any energy when you have the love that's right there, that's just pouring out, that appreciates you and that gets you and that's taken the time to get you? That is so precious. And here's the thing. That hate that you're wearing on you're just pissed about something, that can go away and it could be replaced with love. I know that feels hard. I know that's hard to imagine, especially there's some people that you really have a good reason to have a chip on your shoulder for. They earn that. And that's why it sometimes feels not like justice to, in a way, let things go. But here's the thing. The reason you don't want to let things go is because you want to keep them on the hook. And the only way you keep them on the hook is if you keep yourself on the hook with them. That's what you're doing. Let yourself go is what you're doing. You're loving yourself enough to let yourself go. You get what I'm saying? Stick with the happy healer. Stick with the methods that help us get healthy and that help us be wholesome and love, and use these methods. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Probably between 9 and 10 is when I like to come on. Tonight we came on a little bit later. No matter what, we'll always be on. God bless you. We're going to end it there. I feel like it was a great show, and I'm not spending this time with you guys babbling. We have to make serious progress. Good night. See you tomorrow.